Hello, gorgeous human beings. It is Monday, so guess if you can guess right now and on the video right now, and you say what it is happens on Monday, then I'll know that you've been watching it regularly. But for those that are new, this is Manager Critic Monday. I'm Cheryl Andrews. I'm the Strength and Solution Detective and also the founder of Step by Step Listening, and we're all about changing the way that you give and receive feedback so that you can do more of what you love and ditch the critic that says you can't. And today I want to talk about, why do I feel so awful? So those of you that have experienced burnout or perhaps exhaustion, overwhelm, frustration, you will know that feeling when you've just run out of energy. You just don't have the capacity to take on anymore, and you might be questioning what's happened. And often one of the challenges we've got when we're in that state is that we have to just going to turn off my Facebook because I can hear it bleeping if you can't. When we're in that state, what can happen is that our cognitive ability to process, to make sense, has shut down, and so it's really difficult to actually think about what we would like to have happen, to think about what works for us. So I just want to talk about that today, because I found myself at the end of last week absolutely exhausted, like I had nothing left to give. It was like I'd run my engine right down to the grudgy, horrible, yucky fuel at the bottom of the tank, and nothing was really particularly working well, and I was absolutely exhausted. And I was thinking, what's happened? You know, what's changed in that situation? So those that are new to the process, you'll know that there's 3 steps in the ultimate do, delegate, or ditch system. It always comes down to clarity of what you want, confidence in yourself and the process to get from where you are now to where you want to be, and changing the way that you give and receive and invite feedback. So this is what was happening for me, and I want to share it with the view that maybe it will help you. So first of all, what I want to have happen is understand why I feel as lousy as I do, okay? And the purpose for wanting that, if those of you know the 7 principles of motivated action, is because I want to get back to having more energy quickly, okay? I want to be back to feeling energized and feeling okay. The second thing is to have confidence in the process. So I also already, because I know I've had overwhelm, I've been burnt out, I've been exhausted, and I know I recover, I can have absolute confidence that this feeling, this sensation, this experience I'm having right now is temporary, it's transient, and it's within my control to change it. And so one of the things that's really different for me this time when I'm experiencing it is I do know that I have some control over it. That's the way that I'm communicating to myself, the way I'm talking to myself about it, is that I know that this is something I can change, because my energy levels are within my control, because it's about what I physically do, and it's also about what I say, and it's also about what I hear, how I talk to and about myself and my situation. So for me personally, I work with my clients to help people understand what they need to work, learn, and live at their best. And I know for me that one of the things that happened at the end of last year, having been cooped up on Zoom for like a year, I realised I wasn't getting enough fresh air. I wasn't getting out enough. I also discovered that I wasn't getting enough alone time. So one of the things that were the lockdown had happened for me was I'd actually inadvertently, not knowingly, because I naturally got time alone, I naturally had time outside, because I went on things like the walk on your business with Liz Walmsley. So we went and walked on our business. I met up with people and we went for walks. So a lot of the things that I had not knowingly, by not doing them, hadn't realised just how big a part they played in my self-care and in my health and my well-being. So some of the stuff I used to go to boot camp on a Tuesday morning, and that went online. So some of the things that I did in my routine that were naturally outside, I lost those just by changing my routine and pivoting and doing things online. The second thing that I hadn't really appreciated with the lockdown was the time that I get on my own. So if I was driving to a networking meeting, or I was driving to the shops, or going out more often, just traveling places, I would have time alone in the car, and so I got more time alone. And so over the last 8 weeks, something has been changing for me. I became aware of these things, so I made some commitments to doing 2 miles of walking every day, but I was still struggling to get alone time. So my alone time was depleted. And then last week we had a visitor that was staying with us, which actually meant I increased the number of people that I was considering working around, learning with, which is great. I love having them here, it's great. But on top of all that, I was also trying to deal with change with my business, with my website. And the other factor that happened is one of my support networks, one of the tribes that I belong to, where I go for support. So when I'm supporting everybody else, that's the place that I go to, so that I can talk about what's not working and I can get support and some ideas and have that clarity. Some drama kicked off in that group, which meant that my system was kind of unsure of what the rules were, and I've been waiting for it to settle down. So one of the things I talk to people about, if you're feeling really awful, one of the things is to first of all get clarity of what you'd like to have happen. So you're really clear where you want to be, to get from where you are now to where you want to be. So I know my process for having high energy and maintaining my level of confidence is that I do need time alone, and I need to eat well, and I need to exercise. And if I don't make time for that, then it doesn't work. But also, I talk to people about change the way you give, receive and invite feedback. And often the way that we give ourselves feedback is dependent on what we hear and experience outside of us. And what I hadn't fully appreciated was the impact of one of my pillars of support crumbling. And because that pillar of support crumbled, and the person who I was depending on to support me now needed me to support them, I was depleted in my support network. Now, I've seen this happen with lots of my clients, lots of times, that you suddenly find, hello, whoever's just liked it, thank you very much for doing that, suddenly find yourself in a situation where you're all okay and then you're not okay. And examples that I've found is I've been talking to somebody and they're like, for example, one of the person I was talking to, her husband was feeling very stressed. He was signed off work for stress. And so he used to be her confidant, her sounding board. And now that she didn't want to burden him because he had his own stuff to deal with, she'd lost that sounding board for her business. So her support network had changed. Somebody else I worked with she was going through divorce, and whilst obviously it was absolutely the right thing for her to separate from her husband, it was the right thing to do and the divorce needed to happen, she had hoped they were really good friends, they were a really good team, but that she no longer wanted to be in the marriage with him. And she had hoped that they would stay companions and they would still support each other and they would co-parent, and it would be, but it didn't happen that way. And it may well work its way back to that, but the other person's reaction to change was to cut them out, to shut them out. So her support network changed. Somebody else I talked to was the situation was that their boss, someone that they actually really depended on at work, the person they really sort of felt they trusted, they could go to, they left the company, they moved on. So if you are feeling awful, it will generally come down to either you lack clarity of what you want, so you've got no sort of direction and you've got no focus, or you don't have confidence in yourself to get from where you are now to where you want to be. So maybe you don't know the process, you don't know the series of actions. And so I talk to people about understanding what they need to work, learn and live at your best, because when things are not how you want them to be, you're either going to have to work with somebody or with your, work on yourself to get you from where you are now to where you want to be, whether you want to be more organized, more assertive, more sales, whatever the thing is you want to do differently or more of, you have to, and understanding the process, what takes you from where you are now to where you want to be, can settle your brain, because it will know how to measure progress, how to give you feedback back going through. But often what has changed, if you know what you need and you know what you want and it still doesn't feel right and you can't work out, just check in whether your support network has changed. Because it was only really this morning that I realised it was a pillar from my support network had crumbled, and so I didn't have access to that support for that period of time, because the dynamics had changed from me going there for support to them needing support from me. And it's just an interesting thing to notice, because I think it happens in lots of relationships. But I just want you to question with yourself, how often do you put prioritizing supporting others over supporting yourself? And maybe you just don't have the strong support network around you to make sure. And that's why working with us step-by-step listening, or even things like a coach or a mentor, is because the coach and the mentor, you pay them so they don't bring their stuff to the party. They show up and you don't have to deal with their stuff. You're guaranteed that when you have an hour, 2 hours with them, it is completely about you, and that is what gives you that solid foundation of support, so that you are always going to go somewhere where you know you can get the support and be resourced. Whereas actually in life, whether it's our work relationships or our personal relationships, people's availability to support you is constantly changing. Whereas somebody like a coach who's paid, and we train how to keep our stuff to ourselves so that when we're with you, we are 100% present for you. You can come to these environments safe, that you can depend on that support. And building up a network of people so that you have more than one person. So you're not just, one of the things I ask my clients to do is make sure you're building your network of people up, and that you're becoming consciously aware of who's in your support network. Because let's say, heaven forbid, I was poorly and I wasn't available, I'd like to think that my clients have access to other people that they can talk to. So Loretti put such a good point. We rely on our friends and family more than we realise. So grateful for my supporters. It's great to know they're there. And I really, 2012, when I had really hit the wall with myself, I had coaches and mentors I could go to, but I didn't, and I would only go to them for things that I was like really wanting to sort out, wanted to be focused on a process, wanted to make change with. What I lacked in my support network at the time was actually people who were just friends, somebody who I could have a vent to, someone I could download to. More importantly, somebody I could ask to help me without feeling like I had to pay them. So just saying, could you come and give me a hand with this, please? And actually, that's still a bit of a work in progress for me personally, but my network of people that I would now class as friends, and if I was struggling, I could ask them for help. But what I do know is where the do, delegate or ditch system comes in place. I can only ask for help if I have clarity of what kind of help I need. And I can only ask them for help if I understand how I can work with other people effectively. What do I need to be able to work with them at my best? The bravest word is help. Great words. Well, tell me more about that. So where does that come from for you, Loretta? Bravest word is help. Because there's... How much of it do we not ask for help? So you're talking about bravest. How much of it is that we don't ask for help because we have an inner voice and a critic that's talking about things like, I'm not good enough. They'll think I'm weak. I should be able to do this myself. How much of it, brave, you use bravest word, I might use courage. How much of the courage to ask for help comes from the fact that we think that we should be able to do it ourselves, and that we are criticizing ourselves for not being capable of doing it? And how much of it is coming from the fact you absolutely don't have clarity of what help you need, versus you don't understand the process of how to get from where you are now to where you want to be? And in my experience, quite often the reason we don't ask for help is because we don't actually know what kind of help we need. And in all the years I've been doing the work, sometimes all the help we need is someone to talk to who can listen to us without judgment, without assumption, who can honour and validate our experience. And sometimes just going to somebody, do you know what I found this week really incredibly tough? It was really hard. And someone going, yeah. That's, just acknowledging it. Sometimes though, when we're talking to somebody, we don't need that kind of listening. We don't need that compassionate companion, our friend. We actually need a coach who's going to go, so given it's like that, what would you like to have happen? And can change our focus from what is happening to what we would like to have happen instead, and then support us on this journey to go from where we are now to where we want to be. So Reggie's got, I struggle to ask for help. Good morning, lovely. I just read out lovely lady then. Good morning, Paul. Obviously you're not a lady. Lovely for you to join us. We're just talking about, I felt really awful last week, and I was trying to work out what had changed, and we're just recapping about sometimes the reason things go from being really okay to not okay is because our support network has changed and we haven't consciously been aware of it. And so sometimes our friends, I was just talking to Loretta about different examples, is that I had another lady who says, well, I was doing really well and now I feel naff. And basically when we unpacked what had changed in her system, in her in the dynamics, was one of the things that changed is one of her friends had been diagnosed with breast cancer, so she'd stopped asking her or telling her about her, just the minor stuff that was really bothering her, or just being able to have someone to vent about, frustrating because she said this and her husband had done that. She'd lost that girlfriend, that someone to go and talk to, because she didn't want to burden her. Paul's got, what a subject. Well, it's that whole thing about support network, and you'll know because we're in the same mentoring group, and I was just saying I'd hit a wall on Saturday. I was absolutely exhausted, and I realised it's because the group that I was in, that I went to for support, I was now effectively feeling like I needed to support the leader and the facilitator of that session. And so where I would have got my support from, I felt like I needed to support, and I got myself in a bit of a bind. I realised I didn't know how to do both at the same time. Maybe I have a very compartmentalised mind. And so I just want people to say to you, if you're not feeling great and things aren't going well, have a check-in with yourself. If you were feeling great and you're not, what's changed? Sometimes people focus on so much about what needs to change or what needs to be better, but sometimes it's better to look back and go to get the understanding and the compassion for why you're feeling like you're feeling right now. And sometimes, in my experience, it's because something has changed in our system, in our network, in our dynamics, that is unsettled your state of the brain. So those of you who don't know about the brain, you've got the reptilian brain, which is a flight, or freeze mechanism, where it's going to have you got enough water, have you got enough food, are you sheltered, are you warm enough, are you cold enough, it's all about your basic human needs. So if something has changed that leaves you feeling unsafe, unsupported, your flight, and freeze mechanisms may have kicked in, because your dialogue unknowingly is not, you're not being able to talk to that friend, or you're not being able to go to that group, or you're not able to go to this place. So you haven't been getting the feedback that says to you, you are okay. And so that part of the system can be activated unknowingly, and then that takes the blood and the oxygen from the front of your brain, which means you can't think with clarity, you can't think with confidence, and you can't problem solve because you're in this survival state. So paying attention to what is changing and what has changed is really, really important. Second things is to think about the mammalian part of the brain, which is the rules. It's like, what are the rules around here? And so, like, we've all been through a year, haven't we, where the rules have been thrown up in the air and changed, and we can all hear and see now when Boris says, here's the plan and we're going to do this, and then when it changes we don't like it. Well, the great lesson from this is we've all been on this journey together right now, and we all are feeling how uncomfortable it feels, because we kind of want to know if it's going to happen, but we've got no deadlines. And then when we think we've got a rule and then it changes, we get agitated and frustrated. That happens on a daily basis with like really minor things, from what time you think dinner's going to be served to what time people are going to turn up for a meeting. The mammalian brain is collecting patterns all of the time. It's collecting evidence of what has happened in the past, and it then creates a rule on the basis that it predicts that's what's going to happen in the future. And when it doesn't happen, it disrupts our system, and our system starts to go, oh wait there, we don't know what's going to happen now. Well, if you have a lot of changes, so for me over the last 8 weeks my support network changed. It sounds really dumb, but I had my husband's birthday, my son's birthday, and my granddaughter was born on Saturday. That I had a lot of things going on from a family perspective, and at the same time I'm changing my branding with my company and trying being the operative word, launch a website next Monday, and I'm building relationship with new people and having to work with different people trying to help me to get the website. So I'm having to build new relationships. I had change in every aspect of my life, my personal life, my business, and in my own support network for myself. And it doesn't surprise me at all now when I look back why I hit a wall by Friday. I mean, my body ached, everything ached, and then add into the fact I've had a vaccine and who knows what that's doing to my system. It's not surprising that I was feeling awful. Now I have that clarity of what's happened, I can put things back in place. I know I need to go for a walk every day. I know I need to tap into that support network, and I need to make a decision. Is it working for me or isn't it? So I'm going to go in, I'm going to engage, I'm going to be part of it, I'm going to ask for the support I need, see if I can get it, and if I can't, then it might be that I leave that support network and I go and source support somewhere else. So that's what I can do with that knowledge myself. So I want you to think about today, of the week ahead, it's Manage to Quit Monday, what would you like to have happen? How do you need to be? And what kind of resource or support might you need? I'm just going to check in. We've got, unfortunately, change is the only constant. Absolutely. And one of the things that we're just starting the 7-day Make It Happen Motivator today. So I was up at 5 or 4 o'clock this morning, and we started our session at 7. And one of the things that I encourage on this first level is that we get really good at noticing what is changing and celebrating it, learning to embrace what's working about it, because the more we do that, the more the mammalian brain and the reptilian brain become one, they go, oh, it's okay, she's noticed things have changed, or he's noticed things have changed. So it can settle your state because you're consciously aware change is happening. So when you appreciate that the seasons are changing, when you really appreciate that the weather's different, or you appreciate changes in your business, and Paulie, I know you're so good at this, you're so good at having gratitude for what's around you. And the more we do that, it sends the signals to that part of the brain that says, change is happening and I am okay, I'm safe. And as long as we can keep that state, then we can stay in that place of curiosity. We can then solve problems that we might be challenging with. Loretta's got, that's why traffic change. Yeah, absolutely, it is. I'll just read that with my slow tongue in. That's why change is tough. We're looking for patterns. I see. Thank you, Loretta's put. So thank you for engaging with me today. And actually, that's the other thing, is it's been lovely to have 2 people on here with me today, because I've done also in the last 8 weeks, one of the things that changed is I seem to do loads and loads of live videos with nobody on here. So when normally it doesn't bother me when everything's great in my world, it's fine, I'm okay with it. But I did talk to my mentor about it, and I talked to my team. I was talking to Susie and that about it last week, is that it's sometimes it's hard, isn't it, to keep showing up. I love coming here, and I want to educate, I want to inspire, I want people to have more clarity and confidence to be themselves. And when I'm really against the time and I've got limited resources and I'm feeling depleted myself, sometimes coming and doing a video and nobody engaging and nobody commenting, I think to myself, is that a really good use of my time? Because the feedback for me comes back saying, well, nobody's there, and I could have gone for my walk, or I could have eaten a healthy meal, or I could have done something else. And I have to question how I use my time. Now, fortunately, my Facebook manager, Susie, looks at the things and gave me lots of evidence that they get watched later, and that I need to let go of that critic that's worried about getting feedback in the moment, short-term gratification, and be aware of the long-term rewards that we get, because obviously I'm putting resources out there for people to use later on. Paulie's got, I love your lives, but I normally watch on catch up. It's great. Thank you so much for that. And what I know as me as a person, I'm sure you understand this well, so Paulie, you're an entertainer, is that I thrive on feedback. Now, it's my strength, because I take on people's feedback, I'll adapt and I'll change. But it's also my nemesis when either I keep listening to other people's feedback and forget to listen to myself, or when I don't get any feedback, I make up all sorts of stuff in my head. But fortunately, I'm very lucky to have an amazing support team around me who will remind me, Loretta, of the patterns. Will look back and collect the evidence. They'll get their detective magnifying glasses out, and they will remind me of the things I have imminently forgotten in my stressful state. So that leaves me to say thank you so much. I feel really, really pleased that you've joined me today. I am loving being back into the Cheryl zone with a bit of sparkle. And I am aware that I need to pay attention to my support network. That's what I'm going to have to do. I need to check where my support's coming in, because I want to spend time and energy with people that resource me, because I spend a lot of time supporting people who are struggling. And so if I go to my support network is struggling as well, it's too much for me. I'm an empath. I feel people's pain. And so I need to go to places where I can get that support. And if you are watching this video and you haven't worked with me, don't know me, please be aware that clean coaching, that's the training I get. If you come to me to work with me, you will not get my stuff. You will get me being, I can hold back my stuff for our time that we're in that session. That's what I'm trained to do. And that's one of the benefits of having a coach or a mentor, or somebody who's trained to listen and not bring their stuff to the party. It means that when you go to them for support, you're absolutely guaranteed that it's your haven. It's your space to recharge, restore, refocus, and that you're not going to hear all about the stress they had the day before or how long it took them to get to the appointment, because they won't bring to the party anything about themselves. You won't hear their drama. You won't have to deal with any of that. It's your space for you to unpack your own stuff and for you to sort it out. And I think that some people are very gifted and they have friends, and I'm very fortunate now to have a network of people I can go to and talk to about my stuff. And there are times when I absolutely need my coach. So I'm very fortunate. I've got a half-day session booked with my facilitator tomorrow afternoon, and I will be able to unpack all this in a lot more detail and get really clear about what I want to have happen, and then map out the process, confident that I have the support around me to make that happen. So on that note, have an amazing week, and I will be back with Feedback Friday. And please keep track of what's been going on in your life and come and tell me on Friday what's worked, what's not gone so well, and what could work better. And as you say, Loretta, let's track the patterns, because if things keep repeating, and it is something that's happening a lot in your life and it's happened over a long period of time, that's when we get worn down, and that's where change work is really important, and people like myself can help you to get there. Have an amazing week. Speak to you all soon. Thanks for joining me.